I feel like I have blabbered, and I feel like I don't even know if I made a lot of sense. It's such a topic that I'm very passionate about, and it's like I want to throw out all the information at one time, because what if there's a family that's watching this, and maybe what if I didn't say the right thing, and what if I didn't give enough information? And so sometimes I tend to over talk because I want to give enough information, because I'm hoping what I'm having to say is going to influence someone to go adopt. I have done this intro about 5 times and I'm over it, so I'm just going to spew it out, okay? My friend Kate Hayes, y'all might remember her name. I spoke about her in a couple weeks ago in my favorite things video. I'll put a tag here, go check it out. But she is a precious, sweet friend. I've actually never met her physically, but we have gotten to know each other pretty well, her and her husband Nick, over on Facebook. That's kind of how we connected. They have 2 biological children. They have adopted a little girl from the Philippines, and they also have just started a YouTube channel. So her and I are going to collaborate here together, and we are going to talk about a topic of discussion that we thought would interest you and would answer some of your questions for many of you who are looking into adoption, whether domestically or internationally. So we are going to talk about today, how do you choose a child? Why did you choose that child? As you know, choosing a child and walking through the adoption process is extremely overwhelming. It is not a decision to be taken lightly, and we are just hoping to shed a little light, a little perspective from both of our families. I love what Kate and Nick said in one of their previous videos, is that while they will share their adoption journey and what it has looked like for them, and we will share, and others families are going to share, no two stories are going to look identical. No journey is going to look the same, and how we process through adoption and through this journey and how the Hayes family does may look a little bit different, but we have the same end goal, and we still have the same heart and the same purpose behind adoption and why we choose to do what we do. And so we thought it would be great to share different perspectives, different insight on how we go about this part of the adoption process that is very overwhelming. And so we hope it's going to be of value to you. So let's get into it. So let me take you back just for a second. Stan and I had always talked about adoption since like when we dated. We always thought that there would be a neat idea, and maybe we would do it someday. But then life got busy and 4 kiddos came along, 1 income family, and so I think adoption definitely was put on the back burner until 2014. It was made pretty clear that the Lord was calling our family to adopt. So at this time, Stan and I had not spoken about domestic or international adoption or anything of that nature. We just knew that the Lord called us to adopt, and we were to obey. Of course, very fearful, not sure how we were going to make this work financially and all the things, but we said yes. And shortly after we said yes, the Lord made very clearly to me that we had a little girl in the Philippines, and I knew that she was a toddler. And I know for myself, I felt very fearful that I was going to make the wrong choice along the way, that I was going to choose the wrong adoption agency. We were going to choose the wrong child. What if we picked a child that God didn't want us to have? What if we like all the things? I just felt like I had no clue what I was doing, and I was so scared that I was going to mess up God's great plan for this adventure. And what I had to learn was, and really the mentality that I had to get to was, we have accepted this calling, but we are walking blindly, and I'm going to need you to lead me. I'm going to need you to show me which adoption agency are we using. I'm going to need you to show me which child are we to say yes to. I'm going to need you to show me which special needs can our family physically, emotionally, mentally, financially handle. All of this is so foreign to me. I need you to tell me what to do. And I feel like that is kind of where the Lord wants you to be. He truly wants you to rely on him and trust him. And that's exactly what we had to do. And I had to remember that, Ashley, you are not so wonderful and powerful and almighty that you are going to screw up God's plan for your life and for this little child's life. Like, you're not going to screw up his purpose in all of this. If you have the willing heart and you have that heart of wanting to serve him, and that is why we were choosing to do it, he is going to honor you. He's going to lead you. He is going to stretch you. But he has your best interest at heart. And he is not going to lead you astray. So, I and Stan, I say I, but Stan too, we had to get to the place of almost putting it back on Jesus, almost putting it back on God. Saying, okay, we've said yes. We're clueless. We don't know what we're doing. It's on you to tell us what to do, where to go, who to choose, all the things. And if you know the stories, he didn't fail us, right? Okay, so once we signed on with our agency, at that point, we had not really thought about special needs or healthy children, which route we would go. We just knew we were to adopt a little girl from the Philippines, and we were just jumping all in and not really knowing what we were doing, so to speak. So when we chose our agency, again, God showed us very clearly which adoption agency we were supposed to use. They were involved in the Philippines program, and they were only involved in the special needs track. So you have the special needs track, which is special needs kids, and then you have the healthy track, which is healthy children. Pretty much in any country, if you are going to go the healthy track route, you are going to be waiting years to be matched with a healthy child. There are far more orphans available who have special needs, and special needs can mean a wide variety of things. It can mean a cleft palate, a cleft lip, a deformity of the hand. Maybe it's been corrected, but because they were born with it or because they once had it, they will still be labeled as special needs. Sibling sets are considered special needs. Some have heart defects, some have, special needs can mean a wide variety of things. Now we have to look at this 3-4 page long sheet that has all these special needs stating what our family will accept or will not accept in a child. Going through that list and really having to determine once again what can our family handle or not handle was very overwhelming. And then there was that emotional part of it was, who am I to tell a child who has a heart condition that they're too much trouble for my family? And I'm not sure that I want to be committed to that. That was very hard. I know that the Lord spoke with Stan during this step in the process with Michaela's adoption. And Stan, you came to me with all of your baggage and all of your yuck and all of your sin, and I accepted you into my family. Why would you not do the same for one of my children? And that was really a turning point for us in our heart in this whole adoption matter, in knowing that this is the gospel played out. Adoption is the gospel played out. And who am I to say that that child is too much for me? The Lord didn't turn us away because our baggage and our yuck and our sin was too much for him. He accepted us with open arms, right? So that changed our whole mentality very quickly. And I know that I talk a lot about God and our faith in these videos, but it is essentially the core of who we are and why we choose to adopt. So I hope it's of some value to you in hearing our perspective and how our faith plays such a big part into adoption. Fast forward with the Philippines program. Once we completed our home study, we then would receive an email once a month with all the available orphans within that special needs program in the Philippines. It was probably 300 to 400 page email, and you scroll through and there's a picture and a short biography of each child. It says how old they are, how they became an orphan, what their special needs are, medical challenges, what they like to do, like all the things. And it was extremely heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching to sit there and scroll through all of those pictures. I get emotional every time I talk about this part. Scrolling through all of those pictures at all of these orphans who need families, but you know you can't save them all. We went through about 6 months of looking at pictures, finally found Micaela's picture. When we initially saw it, her files were a little overwhelming and she had a lot of labels attached to her. Physically, she was everything I knew that the Lord had shown me, but seeing it in black and white and seeing all the things that she came with really, really scared us. So a few days passed, Stan and I sat down together and I just told him, I said, that little girl with the braces on her feet, I said, she scares me to death. I said, but I just cannot be that family that says no to her because her needs scare me. And he said, I totally agree. So we went in, we did receive her medical report. A good question that people have asked is, do you get a doctor to review that child's medical profile? And within the Philippines, they require you to speak with an international pediatrician. So we did have an international pediatrician look over Micaela's medical file. And essentially they were like, this is not a child to adopt. She wouldn't never do anything. She'll probably never speak. And like all of these things, they gave us some wisdom and gave us some things to think about. And they gave us their expert knowledge of what they could tell by the documents that were placed in front of them. We all know that the information given on a lot of these medical files are misdiagnosed and completely incorrect. So you truly have to go into adopting a child with no expectations, knowing that what you see on paper and what you see in their medical file could be completely different than what reality is. It could be a much better scenario. It could be a much worse scenario. So you have to prepare yourself as best as possible. You know, if you know that child has Down syndrome, let's educate yourself. Let's get to know other families who have kids with Down syndrome. Let's educate ourselves. Let's see what our insurance is going to be able to provide for us. And like all of these things, you have to prepare yourself. But at the end of the day, you must know that when you go and pick up that child, that reality could look completely different than what you had imagined, and you have got to be ready, willing, and able to accept that no matter what. I find that so many families go into adoption with this kind of sunshine and rainbows mentality that we're going to make this little girl so much better, right? We are going to get her home, we're going to get her the help she needs, and her life is going to be so much better. Which, yes, we hopefully that is going to be the truth, and we know that's the intention. But it's not always that easy. And you have to be ready, willing, and able, and know that when you bring that child home, it isn't your job to fix them. And it isn't your job to get them to a place that makes you feel comfortable. It is your job to get them home to feel safe, loved, secure, nourished properly, and to help them be the best person they can be. So many families bring a kid home with these high expectations, and those expectations get squashed, and then things happen and disruptions happen, and they give the child up because it's not what they were expecting. So if there's anything that you could hear me on is take the information that is given to you with a grain of salt. Be prepared. If it says that child has a heart condition or that child has Down syndrome or whatever it is, educate yourself. Be prepared on that information. Speak with your pediatrician. Find out what facilities you have around you that can help aid in providing support for that child. Find other families who have children with maybe those same disabilities or medical challenges. Educate yourself. But just know when that child comes home, it could be completely different. And you've got to be in a place where that is okay. And that's hard. That's hard. So we came home and, adjusting to life with Micaela. We knew we were going to adopt again. I was pretty certain there was a little girl in China we were going to be adopting. And I just started watching a lot of YouTube videos of other families who were adopting special needs kids because what I knew and what I felt in my gut was that the next child we were going to adopt was going to have more significant needs than Michaela did. Michaela's needs are pretty significant, but very manageable, and she's such an easy child that it just makes it a much easier process to walk through. So I just started watching a lot of YouTube videos, and through those YouTube videos, the Lord was softening my heart and preparing my heart for a child like Isabel. And that is why we share what we do on YouTube, is because through our words, through our actions, and through our stories, we are hoping it will impact others like other YouTube videos impacted us and prepared our hearts to say yes to a really difficult situation that God was going to present to us. So my flesh did not want to adopt a child like Isabel because she was blind, and you could tell she was from a place of neglect, and I didn't know if we knew how to handle a child like that, and it was scary. We knew that saying no to that little girl was really a slap in God's face. It was saying, God, your creation, your child, it's too much for me. Like, it's too much for my plate of life, and it's going to disrupt my comfortable life. I couldn't do that, and Stan couldn't do that. And so, honestly, we were at that place again where we didn't have all the answers. We didn't know how to care for a child who was blind. We didn't know how to care for a child who came from neglect and abandonment. We didn't know how to help a child who couldn't walk and couldn't crawl and couldn't eat. We were again at that place where we didn't have all the answers. And again, that's right where God wanted us, right? We just knew that we had the means to take in a child who is unwanted by many, and we knew that we could love her and we could nurse her to health, and we knew that we could give her a safe place and a family to call her own. And other than that, we had no answers. And I know that that is a difficult pill to swallow for a lot of people. I know a lot of people want to have all their I's dotted, their T's crossed, like double checked, proofread 29 times. They want to have all the answers. If plan A falls through, then plan B, then plan C, plan D. And sometimes that's just not how it's going to happen. It's just not. I don't even know if anything I'm saying is making sense to anyone on how or why you choose a child. But at the end of the day, okay, if you are choosing to adopt, you are going after God's own heart. Right? He's already commanded us to take care of the widows and the orphans. So why would he not favor your choice to adopt? He's not going to abandon you. He's not going to leave you. And you're not going to choose the wrong child to bring into your family. You may choose a child that may make you uncomfortable, that may stretch you. But that doesn't mean it's the wrong child for your family, because I don't believe there's a wrong child for your family when you're choosing to take in the fatherless, right? So now we're here on our third adoption. We have a little girl in China. Her name will be Lily Grace. I have a video here that explains where, when, and why we have chosen to adopt her. And again, these are things right now that I'm saying right now that you're going to see in that video as well, is we had a very specific calling, a very specific, like, you are to go to the Philippines. There is a toddler little girl in the Philippines, and you are to bring her home to your family. Like, very specific. We knew that with Isabel, very specific. My flesh is screaming no, but I know that the Lord is calling us to that little girl. With Lily Grace, it wasn't this big, huge draw to her or this big, huge aha moment. It was one of those things where, again, if Mika had not come home and then Isabel had not come home, we would not be bringing little Lily Grace home. Because I know that this sounds silly, but a huge factor in what caught my eye with this little girl is her hand and arm deformity. And because our little girls have been established at Shriners Hospital, it's a nonprofit hospital that has helped Isabel with her hip surgeries and helped Michaela with her club feet challenge, I looked at this little girl with this arm deformity and I was like, oh my goodness, Shriners could help this little girl. Like, I need to find a family for her that lives near a Shriners, you know, because Shriners just, that takes a lot of the financial burden off of having to have multiple surgeries done to help her arm and fix her arm and all of those things. And I was like, why not us? Why are we not that family? We know we want to adopt again. We know we want to bring home another child. Why not us? Why am I getting on Facebook to advocate for this little girl when we are able to meet a need? We are able to look at this little girl and see that she needs a family and we can provide that for her. So again, I do believe it's how God wanted this whole story of bringing Lily Grace into our lives. I do believe it. He's right there in the midst of it. But it wasn't like this huge, Ashley, this is your child, go adopt her, by any means. It was just, why not us? Because what our mentality is now is the Lord is going to favor and bless us, and He is going to favor and bless you when you're choosing to serve Him in the act of adopting an orphan. So you cannot choose the wrong child. Quit waiting around for the perfect child. Quit being fearful that you are going to choose the wrong child to bring into your family. There isn't a wrong child to bring into your family when you are choosing to bring in the fatherless, right? There's just not a wrong decision. Now, you do need to sit down and look at financially, what can your family handle? Do you have good insurance that is going to provide financial assistance and therapy sessions and possible surgeries and those types of things? Are you able to break away and take this child to doctor's appointments if needed? Or are you stuck at a really strict job where you really can't leave at all? Do you have caregivers to help you? Like, all of these things you need to use wisdom to look at and to see what your family can physically, emotionally, and financially handle. But at the end of the day, even if on paper, even if you're like, you know what, I don't know how we're going to make it work, but we're going to make it work. And I want to do this because I want to serve the Lord. I do feel like there's some level of like, you just have to throw everything that makes sense to the wind and say, Lord, I trust you. Because again, I feel like that's where He wants you. He wants you uncomfortable. He don't want you being unwise. I'm not saying be unwise and not look into what your family can really take on. But you don't need all the answers. And if you are trying to get all of the answers, and if you're trying to find that perfect child, you will never adopt. Never. It's just the simple of it. Thank y'all for joining. I hope it added some value to your life. And go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Give it a thumbs up if you liked this video and if you want to see more videos like this. And hop on over to my friend Kate Hayes' channel and watch her video on this exact topic. I'm excited to hear her perspective and hear their story and how they kind of processed through choosing which child to bring into their family. Anyways, thank y'all for joining, and we will see y'all next time. Bye.